Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started with the replay analysis right here for Mahasan. I don't know. Arc Warden. Okay, so let's go real quick, and I just want to briefly double check what the pick order was here, because I do want to talk about that. So you picked Arc Warden. Okay. You saw everyone but the Jug, it looks like. So picked it into Disruptor, Necro, Shaker, Omni. I don't see anything wrong with this pick. I think it's pretty good. Maybe have a little bit of trouble versus the Omni Knight, just because he can purge off your Q with his W. But that's like a very minor thing. I would be really, really willing to play Arc Warden into any of those heroes. So, I am personally under the opinion that Arc Warden doesn't have a whole lot of counters. There's some heroes like Ricky or Anti-Mage that are kind of annoying. Just because they have really good gap close, they're hard to kill, things like that, right? And of course, anyone that has a really easy way to kill them. So we'll look at your starting build.
Alright, I'm back.
Okay, so joining me on this adventure is my friend Dino. Say hello, Dino.
Hello. Zai.
Selves are in agreement.
我是一个没有感情的刷钱机器。
Your mid, I like your mid build. This is very standard. Basically, there's not really any situation where you would deviate from this unless you're maybe versus someone that you need a magic wand versus. But I
What
think
about
this
his
is
skill
fine.
point?
The skill point, yeah. As the mid, you're very rarely going to skill anything other than Spark Wraith, so I don't really think that's too much an issue, but I think it's a bad habit to ever skill anything before you actually use it. Let's
30 seconds to battle.
Fog Radiant here.
Yeah, I think this ward is fine.
Yeah.
It sees the room.
I just wanted to make sure he didn't walk into bush or something.
Yeah.
The battle begins.
No, he is behind the trees. It's pretty much really good work.
So you've got a pretty wild draft on your side. Offlane Huskar DK. It's pretty clowny. Both their builds are trash. They have 3 tangos between 2 heroes. A little spooky. This definitely looks like, from a draft-wise, it's a little bit of an uphill battle for you. But Arc Warden is pretty damn good at
Beautiful.
1v5ing.
Is this a one game or a last game?
This is a 1 game. He's got a loss that he will...
Well, I find that wins are better to analyze, unless they're stomps.
Well, especially if it's an uphill... an uphill...
You'll have more insight into the minutia of mid, so probably won't talk too much.
So, one thing to talk about versus basically every single mid matchup that you play, you want to start with a salve, especially if you're not a bottle hero. So some bottle heroes you'll see can be really, really greedy with them, with regen. So, Storm Spirit is a good example, right? It's like he often wants a salve, but if he can get his bottle really quickly, sometimes that's more advantageous. This game, you're just going to want a salve and a magic wand or magic stick pretty quickly. So you don't have any of those queued up, which is a little bit concerning, but we'll see. Currently, you're just kind of relying on that shared tank.
Yeah, and usually if you get 2 bounties, you can immediately ferry out a salve. Although, Courier is a bit slow on that.
Yeah.
So the other way to do it is to do the salve first, and then ferry out the component that you get, the Wraith Bank component you get.
So you have a 125 attack range bonus on Necro. I didn't know how much more it was, but I knew it was more. You also have a little bit better of an attack animation and a slight damage advantage, especially because he went some crappy bracer for some reason. So something that I would like to see you do is utilize this. The easiest way to do this on Arc Warden specifically, but a lot of mid heroes have like a very similar pattern: Void Spirit, Ember Spirit, even TA to some extent. But auto down the range creep, use your spell to get the CS, and then this Necro, you have a better trade advantage versus him. You can auto him when he comes up to use his Q, you can auto him when he's trying to CS, you can stack up your Spark Race behind him to kind of pressure him out. If he starts to walk away from the creeps, you can use your Q. It really just opens up a lot of options for you as a hero. And when this range creep, it sounds really dumb, but when this range creep is here, it really, really limits what you can do as Arc Warden. So on the mid, I almost always want to be pushing, especially versus a hero that has high D push, like a Necro or a Storm Spirit or something, who will naturally push the wave back towards you. Like, I want to see you hitting these range creeps, and you haven't really done this at all. But level 3 is when it should start. Okay, actually, literally right as I make a comment, he does it. So that's good. But now it's really what you're going to do with this situation that you've created. So are you going to auto him? Are you going to push him away? Are you going to force him in? Like, how are you going to make him make a decision that you can then turn into something? So it's like, if he goes on you, then you can press spells and auto. If he runs away, then you can use your Q and kind of just like let it be. And if he stays in the creeps, then you can get a lot of hits off on him. Arc Warden the best case scenario for Arc Warden in any lane is you have a HP advantage while you guys are close together, and then they can't leave. So if you can ever create that situation where you have an HP advantage and they can't leave the creep wave, or you're going to press your Q and get ease on them, then that's really helpful. Or even if you're just trading favorably, like if he ever walks down these stairs, then you should hit him and get your Q and your E off. So this is good. I kind of talked about this already, but I'm glad that I was proven wrong and you actually are doing it now that you're level 3. Still kind of lacking on the regen though. But let's go ahead.
Something you could do a bit more is pump fake a bit, because the Necro is getting some easy denies off just by watching him. So if you fake a bit more, or if you harass the Necro more,
mess with his autos.
Yeah.
It's
just like, yeah, it's just like, doing more with the time that the Necro is giving you. Yeah.
And I don't really care that you're missing the CS per se. Like, if you're just missing CS because it's this is like your first game of the day or whatever, like that's something that you can just practice. I need to tell you, it's like everybody knows you need to CS.
Of course. But I think like more like faking your opponent out it's a very good thing to do in mid, especially.
Yeah, and you can get some cheesy denies and stuff with it.
Exactly.
Here you want to at least make sure, if you're not going to get the CS, at least be an XP range. So you do walk forward for that, which is good. But with Necro, as long as he's getting last hits, he's kind of sustaining forever. So like Dino said, you gotta hit him out of the lane.
Yeah. And it is a bit hard because right now you're at an HP deficit, but that's mainly because you didn't get a salve.
Yeah, exactly.
Because like right now would be the time when you would be using your salve, because he hasn't gotten you this low previously in the lane.
Yep. And then you could be here on the stairs with full HP, and he would be in this like weird spot where if he stays around while you auto him, then he's gonna die, and if he leaves, he's gonna get spells pressed on him. And then he's kind of trapped in this weird situation. So I would like to see you get some regen, which you do.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
This is good. Room control, very smart. Something that you didn't do that you should is get a Null Talisman instead. So it only takes one Null Talisman for your level 4E to one-shot the range creep, which is something you want to work towards. And
Is it double Wraith Null, or is it Wraith
it's just
Null?
Wraith Null.
Okay.
And I don't think he's having a good enough lane that he actually needs to justify having two like filler items. I would actually say that like just a Null Talisman would have been fine. Even if you have like a casual, what's it called, Slipper of Agility, because you start with the 2 slippers in the circlet, which is correct. So if you're having a really good lane, then you can get the Wraith, but just having a casual slipper of agility is not a big deal. Like you go for pretty large scale items on Arc Warden. You don't have a lot of like small things. So like that's okay. You don't have to fill your Wraith Fans. And I want to see what he does with his first level 6. And I think something you probably should have done as well is get raindrops or stick. I know I mentioned the stick before, but raindrops will help you here. You're just losing a regen battle. So if you're getting more CS because you're using your regen to allow you to get better CS, then how do I say this? If you're buying regen, it's going to help you get last hits because you can have a more dominant place in the lane. And the dominant place in the lane kind of is circular, right? It allows you to get more gold because you're getting more CS, and then the Necro has to buy regen, and it just ends up being a better thing. So don't be afraid to buy a bunch of salves or whatever. You don't want to trade like an idiot, but if you have a hard lane opponent like this who just kind of wins the sustain war, then use your regen to get you your stuff.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
Allows himself a wound, that's fine. This guy should either TP or die. It's too bad your DK's not there. But that's really good that you forced him out. And he's an idiot who TP'd nearby, so you should be able to do this. And you see how you're playing right now? This is the situation that you want to create for yourself. Is using your regen, you salved up earlier, you pushed him out of the lane with your spells, and then he's the one who has to stay a little bit away from the creep wave.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
I would be a little careful playing on this HP versus Necro though. Yeah, like there, 9 out of 10 times I think it works for you.
Yeah, but even if you just have raindrops and a stick there,
exactly,
that just changes this situation entirely.
Yeah,
like he has
changes
raindrops,
90 out of 99 out of 100.
And you don't, so he gets to make more balls in place. Now I think this Necro's build is wrong. Like this makes your lane harder, but this is worse for him. That's okay. All right, let's hold a bit. That's the way of life.
Illusion.
And you go for 4 points in Q and 2 in Spark Wraith, and that is definitely wrong. There are some situations where you can get a lot of kills with Flux. I'm going to say this is not that situation. You're already kind of struggling versus the Necro. He's getting pretty beefy with these things. And you're having a hard lane, which means what you want to be thinking about is how are you getting back into this game? Now, you can run around and try to kill heroes with Q. That's pretty unreliable versus their team. The Jug will spin it off, the Omni will just like press W and walk away. And side lanes are kind of notoriously difficult to gank as a 285 move speed Arc Warden. You basically have to have a rune. So the Spark Race allow you to farm creeps, and the Flux does not. And since you want to be farming creeps,
Radiant's structures under attack fortified.
The other thing is, like, Flux is kind of conceptually bad versus Necro Flux, because he can sustain the creeps around him that will dispel the Flux. So,
go to gank. That's all very smart. Use the mid tax. This is all.
yeah, that's perfectly fine.
Radiant's mid tower is under attack fortified.
I think if I was playing Arc Warden in this game, I would have had 4 points in Spark Wraith at level 7, and I would be aiming for 2 points in Flux, a point in Magnetic Field, 4 in Spark, so 2, 1, 4, 1, and then I would max Magnetic Field.
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
As my last skill. And the reason for that is just because you're not going to be fighting that much. And Flux, like all 4 of these points are wasted as soon as you walk away from a lane.
Radiant's top tower is under
Whereas
attack.
3 extra points in Magnetic Field makes a huge difference. Once you farm Ancients. And this is good that you're buying multiple clarities that can use your spells.
Radiant's middle tower
Warden
is under
player, so-
attack. Dire's bottom Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
And I do like that you're not leaving the
Dire's
lane, so
bottom tower is under
you're still
attack.
getting farm here, you're still
Dire's
getting levels
bottom
here.
tower has fallen.
And you're preventing this Necro from doing what he wants, which is to finish taking this Let's back up real quick, because I want to see.
Can we see the vision he has as well? I mean,
Yeah, so this is a miss micro. I think it's fairly obvious
Yeah.
this is a miss micro right here.
it looks like the replay is wrong anyway. It's saying that you have vision on the disruptor way beforehand, but
It was the BK.
oh, okay. But I think maybe it's a hard call, right? Because like if you micro correctly, you kill Necro and everything, and it's all good.
This right here, when he walks his main hero in, I have to believe it's a miss micro. If it's not, then you're just actually crazy. As far as like watching this disruptor come up, that's really, really easy to say, oh, well, why didn't you look at the minimap and see disruptor? But you're focused on this fight, and I don't think that I would have
That's true.
noticed a disruptor.
Yeah,
here.
it's hard when you're microing, so
Yeah.
I understand that.
So that makes a lot of sense. This miss micro is a little costly. Like, if it's a mistake, it's a mistake. That's what happens. But in general, when your life is getting like at risk on Arc Warden, get your main hero to a safe spot or click him to a camp, and then just play your clone. I think it's always better to undercommit as the win condition than to overcommit. So here's an overcommitment, mostly because you walk down here and miss micro and die. And because you are the most important hero on your team, you don't want to be the one doing this. So if something's going to go kind of iffy, then you don't want to be anywhere near it. You only want to be there for sure things. So I think playing a little bit more... greedy's not the right word, but self-preservation.
Yeah.
You don't really care if 3 of your teammates are dying if you're living because of it.
Dire's Radiant's bottom tower is under Radiant's bottom tower.
TP back mid. I don't like this TP this time. It's possible this is the correct play and I am wrong. But I'm looking at this map right now and I'm seeing that it is just way too hot for you. Like, Jug is here, Disruptor's here, Necro's here, Omni's here, and you're TPing into 4 heroes. Besides the fact it's possible that you get glimpsed if this Disruptor doesn't have a retard build. But, like, you're not defending this tower by yourself. Like, your team needs to come to this. So I think a better call would have been TP to the tier 2 and start farming these 3 camps here, or even farming the triangle, whichever you personally prefer. Probably these 3 camps is better. And then you can be here to, you know, magnetic field the tower or something, or send your clone. But this is just way too... This is way too much heat. And since you are so... The entire victory depends on you. For the
If you die here twice in a row,
yeah.
the game is really hard all of a sudden.
And this is that same self-preservation thing. Like, it is the right move to defend this tower, but it might not be the right move for you.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
Again, like, you're trying to help your team. I just think it's a mistake. Like, you just need to get your items as fast as possible. Setting goals for yourself or timings for yourself is something that can really help you progress as a core player, especially as a win condition core player. So telling yourself, okay, at 20 minutes, I need to be with Midas, Travels, Maelstrom. And what's going to put me on track to that? And not necessarily like how do I defend every tower? How do I play every play? There's a lot of things that you need to think about in Dota. But when you're the win condition, you need to think about the win condition. Everyone else on your team needs to think about how do we enable our win condition, and you need to be the win condition. So here, you're enabling. Like, you're enabling a Weaver to be the win condition, and that's not correct. You're an Arc Warden. Like, you're the end-all, be-all for this game. So you need to be off doing whatever is going to get you your travels in the Maelstrom as fast as possible.
Radiant
And not
structures
trying to
are
stall the
fortified.
game by 30 seconds so that this Weaver
A gift
can
from the tempest of battle.
get a
Dire's
20-minute
middle tower is under
MTV rush
attack.
or something stupid.
Dire's middle tower has fallen.
And again, like, you're just kind of banging your head against this.
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
You are free.
So, and this one works out cleaner, but that doesn't mean that the decision is any better. The rock enough eventually. The rock
Radiant's
will-
middle tower is under attack.
So, I would like to
Radiant's
see you
middle
just
tower
kind of
has
stacking
fallen.
the jungle, farming it with your E, farming it with your W, being efficient. And I think we can watch the rest of the game really quick because if I had to guess, we're gonna start farming a little bit better. Clone, this is good. See, and this is where Arc Warden shines. Like, send your clone to these fights. It doesn't work. It doesn't
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack. Radiant's tower has fallen.
aggro, stacking.
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack. Dire's top tower is under Radiant's attack. Bottom tower Dire's under attack. Radiant's bottom tower has fallen.
Team fight works out for you. We can go back and look at the beginning of that. Okay,
Yeah, so
you see a lot.
you're like
of heroes
walking into this wave with your main hero,
here, and you see,
which
yeah,
which
you
I
see
think is
no
the same
one-
mismicro as you did earlier. But it's like this idea is kind of costing you
Yeah.
several lives, right? This idea where you're bringing your hero and your clone together, and like Matt said, if you just A click a camp with your main hero and micro the clone, you don't end up in this situation very often.
Yeah, and as soon as this disruptor shows up, even though it feels kind of bad to be a little bit of a pussy, like, you need to be a little bit of a pussy here.
What you really want to be looking
Really
for as a
slow
core
back.
player is you want to know the positions of all their heroes, right? Or at least as many as are necessary
Radiant's bottom tower is
before
under
you
attack.
reveal yourself in a major way.
So,
Because they
I think
are
in
all thinking
general-
about you and killing you.
yeah, that is true. I think a general rule of thumb is for, like, learning this kind of map awareness thing, is just stop showing in waves on your main hero for the majority of the game. So obviously, like, the laning phase, you're going to show up to fights, and you're going to show up to waves here and there. But every time you show up to a wave on your main hero, you have to think about where is the enemy team and what are they doing. Like, towers are not safety past 9 minutes or something like that. So just, if you're going to go to a wave, if you're not 100% sure, like, be 100% sure before you send your main hero, and other than your clone, to the wave. And again, this fight works out because they overcommit on you. It's kind of one of those situations where you lost 3 heroes, but you killed the anti-mage. It's kind of the same thing with Arc Warden. And your farm is really, really behind at this point. Even though you're in the top 3, like, you should be way, way more farm than this.
Take that. Yes.
What are his neutral item options?
I don't know if I can check with the thing
Okay,
here.
yeah, that's fine. I think Nether falls a flame choice. Probably.
Okay, let's go look at this clone usage here. I didn't like it. So your Huskar's kind of cucking you on your farm. I think you should just send your clone down this mid wave. Because that's really what you want your clone to be doing, is pushing waves, and that does two things. One is it helps you find enemy heroes, because they either show up to kill your clone, or they show up to deal with a wave that's pushing, or they just show up to farm, and they don't really care about any of those other things. But it gives you a bunch of options for seeing enemy heroes, and especially enemy cores. And then the other thing it does is it opens up the map for you. The farther your creeps are out, the more waves you have, the more vision you have, the better decisions you can make, and the better decisions your team can make. So sometimes when you're playing these heroes that can take these waves safely, whether it's like a Terrorblade or a Naga or something like that, right? Or Arc Warden in this case with your clone, it doesn't just help you to push the waves. It has other impacts as well. So you get your travels now. And my guess is this is when you start to do this kind of thing. You start to use your clone to TP your clone out.
Just what I need.
I would say for Arc Warden, this is kind of like your farming power spike.
Radiant's
Just
top
seems
tower
way
is
too-
under attack. Radiant's top tower is under attack.
Like even if this works out for you, it's so costly in terms of your time to dance around these fights. It's so much better to just TP out, and then when you have your clone, send it in. It's really by the grace of the enemy team that they're just not taking advantage of this. Like, this Jug's doing a very similar thing you are. He's running around fighting constantly with a Battle Fury instead of taking advantage of his farm.
And it's like, once you have an item, by all means, try to call for engagement. Like, not an item, but like a power spike. So like, if you have an item at a good timing, for example. Otherwise, you want to take more defensive engagements, where you use your clone mostly. And try not to enter the fight yourself.
Radiant's top Radiant's top tower. Radiant's top tower is under attack.
Yeah, see here and stuff like this, not a huge deal, just a little bit of an efficiency thing. Like, take care of your main hero first. It's really easy to get in this habit of like microing your clone super hard, or microing your illusion super hard. But your hero is just as important. So like, while your clone is TPing for those 3 seconds, figure out what your hero is going to do. It's like, here you've already farmed the triangle. It's not going to spawn for a little bit. You're not going to go bottom because you don't really see anyone on the map. The Weaver's already there. So you're going to be running to here to farm. Like, and that's what you're going to do here in 1 second. So just for those 3 seconds while your clone is TPing, take that time to micro your hero. And like, you can even just A-click this camp and then shift A-click another camp or something like really simple. Or even just do the 1 A-click and then micro your clone and then come back and micro your hero. So you end up wasting like 40 seconds or something, which is the difference between getting this camp and getting 2 of these camps. Now obviously it wasn't safe to go there because they showed up, but you know, that's not always the case. Oh no, he's getting jumped again.
So like, here you're showing up on this siege creep. To me, it's not clear that your team is engaging, but you're like starting to fight. And it's not really what your hero does.
Again, every time you show up in a creep wave, it just ends up being bad. So like, at least your clone is taking this top tower, but
Like,
AFK
imagine
in
if
the
your
trees
clone
here
and your
is
hero
better
were
than
swapped
this.
here.
I think that this is the best place for this clone on the map right now.
For sure. But But what I mean is, like, one of them is completely safe, the clone, and one of them is completely not safe, the hero. And it seems like a mismatch of priorities.
So what I would suggest is watch to see if they react to this tower. And whatever they do gives you information. If they don't react to it, they're trying to do something else. Like, every core player in the world is looking at this and he's like, ooh, juicy farm. I get this wave, I get the next wave, I get the next wave. It's like, you know, Weaver's sitting bottom. So they have to do something. They either have to be killing heroes that aren't pushing, or they have to defend. If they don't, they're going to lose. So you know that they're up to something. You don't necessarily know where they are, because you don't have a ward in this area. But showing in a wave just gives them an objective that's really simple. It's like, okay, Weaver's not going to one-shot this tower. You know, he'll have to kill this tower with his next one. And it just ends up being
Radiant structures are for Dire's middle tower. Radiant Dire's middle tower.
Eventually this Necro TP's out, and then you could go and make a fight.
Dire's bottom tower is under attack. Dire's bottom Radiant's middle tower is under attack. Radiant's top tower is under attack. Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
See, and this is a perfect example of what should be happening. You've got your clone down here, pulling people around the map, and this is when you're showing a wave. Perfect.
Yep. On the exact opposite side of the map. They cannot get to you.
And what do? People stop showing, you're not 100% sure, you're pretty sure they're not going to come, but hey, you've got a clone, why risk it? And you can farm back, I mean, you can farm all these camps. All these camps are yours while your clone does this. And this is going to do two things. If they're chasing you, your clone's getting this tower. So, you know, worst case you die, but you get a tower. Best case, you get a tower and you farmed.
Oh. Radiant's top tower is under attack. Radiant's
very,
top
very
tower
good
has fallen.
play right there.
Radiant's
you get the tower for free, basically.
And what do? You get to the other side of the map, and you're just dragging them back and forth like crazy while you farm every camp and every wave.
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
And this is why you win. This is what's going to you in the game. Everything up to this point has been, you're lucky they didn't take advantage of it, and this is when you start playing. I would always use Mjolnir on a creep right at the end of your clone's lifespan.
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
Wow! Now here, that is a really risky play, especially because you have no tier 2s. So if this fight goes badly, they can take megas or at least 2 lanes. That is risky. I actually think it would be less risky if you're going to put a hero there, is to wait your TP with your main hero, and keep your clone here in this fight. But ideally, I think you keep both your hero and your clone here, and you just try to play.
Radiant structures are fortified.
Very, very heads-up play, but I want to caution you on this, because if you die here and lose the fight, then that play looks really foolish. But that was good enough bonus. Wow! Huskar is dead at all times. Making them have to get dragged back.
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
Falling fights.
Dire's middle barracks are under attack. Dire's Radiant's middle tower is under
And this is
attack.
obviously a good play. Like, you have no chance of fighting. Might as well send your clone bottom.
Dire's middle Radiant's bottom barracks are under attack.
You're getting objectives. I mean, this is
Yeah, this is
exactly what you have to be doing. You have to make some kind of counter pressure when they're pushing this hard.
Radiant's bottom tower is falling.
And they end up getting completely crushed because of
Middle
this.
tower has fallen.
And this is good. So, and this really highlights some of the mistakes that teams make in this bracket. So, it's like a better team doesn't allow you to get 2 of these lanes of racks for free.
For sure.
They're going to be more punishing. Like, they're going to see your clone here when they're pushing at one time, and they're going to dive you because you don't have a clone. I would say the best part of that for you was when most of your team was dead, and you're just trying to magnetic field the towers and buildings and keep them alive, and you end up taking this lane of rocks. Obviously, you're very far ahead now. This is good. You've been farming.
But the thing is, if they TP back, which a good team will do, they will try to get back. It still creates opportunities for you on your side of the map.
Yeah.
To re-engage.
Yep. Anytime you can force the enemy to make a decision, then you can kind of plan out what you're going to do if they make one decision or the other. So it's like, do we defend or push? Well, if they defend, then I'm going to do this. If they push, then I'm going to do this. And you have a much easier time reacting to what they're doing. Whereas they're going to be a little bit confused and discombobulated and trying to come up with decisions they have to make.
Radiant's middle
And
tower
hopefully you
is
guys
under
push
attack.
with this last lane.
Radiant's middle tower has fallen.
This is good positioning. Good positioning that fight. Probably winning the game.
Radiant's middle tower has fallen. Radiant's middle tower has fallen.
After about 26 minutes, you started to play well, but the first 26 minutes was really, really rough. You should not have won that game based off of that first play. I'm going to go ahead and stop the video real quick here, and then we'll do the loss.